the official launch. You are here to enjoy, for the first time we've done this, Mondays with Matt. This is going to be an ongoing thing.
That's right. That's right.
Mondays, we're going to have question and answers available. People that want to know about the Ward 4 candidate that is sitting right in front of me and can ask, you can submit questions.
That's right. Very interactive.
Very interactive. The best place to find out about you, I'll introduce, this is Matt Marchand, and running for Ward 4 in the upcoming election. If you want to find out information at votemarchand.com, and that can give you any information that you need. One of the things that you'll find at votemarchand.com is the new platform. It is available for you. You can go through it, spend some time looking through it. There's some really great ideas in here. But what's interesting too is that some of the things that you had in your 2018 campaign in your platform have actually been incorporated into what this is doing now.
Yeah, our campaign team has been tremendous. We got just a tremendous campaign team. We put out a number of ideas, and a number of them, I've even put it on our campaign literature. There's been a number of ideas, at least a dozen, but we just put 3 in our campaign for highlights. The double death trap. Okay. We campaigned hard on that.
Right.
And I think many folks remember the Auditor General. I mean, we pounded that one.
Right.
And we pounded that one to death on that. We sort of got that approved. And we had other things too that were approved, by City Council. Particularly some of which on the like NACS loan, for example, we put that forward hard on our campaign and some other things. So we're proud of our campaign. I think we did a great job in terms of setting the agenda from 2018 to 2022, and we weren't even elected. So imagine if we get the opportunity to be elected, I think we could do even more work for the community. So that's why I'm running, really.
That's why you're running? Yeah. Excellent. Now, as a resident of Ward 4, I find it really interesting that you had great support in Ward 4 when you ran for mayor in 2018. Have some of the ideas from your campaign then or from your platform then translated into this document?
Some of them have, and thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, some of them have, and some of them haven't. We think, certainly in Ward 4, and I think, Ryan, it's almost citywide now, and if not citywide, it's almost a global problem, the homeless. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know we're here today to talk about the homeless. The homeless issue is certainly a problem that it was an issue literally when I was in the mayor's office. It was kind of spinning out there, but today it's gotten pretty bad, not just in Windsor, Essex, of course, but across North America. It's global almost.
An increase.
Yeah, 100%.
Increase in homelessness.
Yeah, increase in homelessness, and is it is it affordability? Is it drug use? Is it this and that? Ultimately, we have to deal with the problem, right? So the problem is, of course, how do we get these folks transitioned? I know you've been very active in this, so I should.
Yeah, I work a lot with people transitioning to second careers, and one of the things that the barriers that people have is, okay, what is it that's keeping me from being able to get a job? Yeah. And certainly with homelessness, the idea of where am I going to put my stuff?
Yeah, and you've seen it. And I think some of the folks that are sensitive to this issue see people pushing shopping carts or 2 shopping carts. I think you referenced that earlier.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I've seen people pushing multiple shopping carts.
Yeah. That's their entire stuff. Yeah. And if you're down on your luck for whatever reason, and your whole world possessions is in the shopping cart, it's on us as leaders and potential leaders in our community to say, what can we do about this? It just doesn't seem right on a lot of different levels, whether it's mental health. I mean, just the psychological burden of pushing a shopping cart around with all your stuff, a place to sleep. What am I going to do with my life? Where am I going to go? Who's looking out for me? Like, there's really no real path for many of these people right now. So our campaign, we did some research and we came up with a couple of ideas. Okay. The first is what's called a transitional storage locker. You may have heard of that in some of your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you may know as well, it's almost global now, the transitional storage locker. And for the folks, listening to us, it's a place for the homeless to put their belongings while they're on, like doing something else during the day. If you're trying to get a job, you're trying to get something to eat, you're trying to take a shower somewhere, where are you going to put your stuff? So places like, it's all over the world now. Lisbon has, from Lisbon to Australia, they've all got it. A lot of states in the U.S. have it. And we've looked at that as part of our campaign research. And they're not expensive, depending on how you want to set it up. It's, $1,000, $2,000 a locker. And to your point earlier, Ryan, it's a transition.
Right, yeah.
We want to transition people from being homeless to their next level. And interestingly enough, part of the barrier, of course, how can they look for a job? How can they take a bath? How can they get something to eat if other stuff is with them?
Right.
So one thing we're recommending in our platform is a transitional storage locker that we can involve community organizations and hopefully maybe yourself, if we get that far. We'd like to get you involved in that, Ryan. As a community leader, to help that transition. So we get a place for people to put their stuff. That solves one problem, okay? So the next problem is now what? So we've got their stuff taken care of. And the next thing, of course, we have to get them back into the workforce, that transition that we've talked about.
Yeah.
And a couple of the programs that we looked at, and one in particular is a really solid one. It's from San Diego. It's called Wheels for Change.
Okay.
And Wheels for Change is that they in 56 cities throughout the U.S. have visited San Diego to try and figure out, wow, this is a pretty good idea.
This is working for them.
100%. Yeah, so it's been sort of the hub of innovation in this respect. But basically what it is that two vans, in their case, two vans, in our case it could be one or something smaller. People put their belongings in the storage locker, and then they're taken on a bus for work to do for the day, whether it's cleaning up garbage or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always work to be done. And paying a living wage, and they take them out for the day, and they get paid. And it's a way to say, you're valuable. That's the first step back. Well, Ryan, the longer you're out of the workforce,
the harder it is to get back into it, because we talk ourselves out of it, and we say, oh, now it's been a year, it's going to look bad on my resume, all those kind of things that people see as barriers to getting back into the workforce. I deal with on a regular basis at the college, and it's more of a mindset. And I understand what you're saying. If your stuff is, everything you own is in 2 shopping carts, and if you put it down for a minute, it may disappear. Why? You have no incentive to go to find something else or to get it to do something that will make you feel more.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So what you were saying with the transitional lockers is the idea is that you could actually have a safe place.
Exactly. Maybe take a shower. All those minor things that we in everyday life take for granted. We can go take a shower, or we can get ready for work, or whatever.
Yeah.
So by at least having a place, and some of these storage lockers have sort of facilities for that. Some even have bedding, depending on how big you want to go with this stuff, right? And they've had some very good success in these different cities about that. So if you have a transitional storage locker, that solves the first problem. If there's bedding, that's even better. So it's a place to sleep and be safe, and a place to restart your career. I know you work a lot in transitions, Ryan. It's a place to get started. And they've had many placements in San Diego by the hundreds of people going from where they were, in a bad space, to back in the workforce. And I know you mentioned cost, and you're sort of in our pre-discussion.
Right. Yeah.
And the issue is there is the cost, and that we acknowledge that. But as we discussed, the benefit, of course, is all those soft costs attached to the homeless, the calls for service, the stress on our taxation, the stress along the community along those lines, that gets to be reduced. So there's the upfront cost, and I think I mentioned, depending on what size locker you want to go, it's 1,000 or 2,000 in the locker, whatever the number is. But there's going to be a lot of downstream savings. It helps solve the problem. It does deal with the mental health. Now, you're close to this too. But what's the psychological strain of pushing around a shopping cart to your family?
It's really the idea of restoring dignity. If it's a low cost on top of it, and you're helping to restore somebody's dignity, that's a huge win.
100%. And it's less stress on our, police and fire. These people getting calls for service. There's somebody here, and people, don't. So by having a process to reintegrate them into the community, and we're even suggesting, even just a pilot project. Let's just try it out.
Take one section and see how.
Yeah, maybe we do 10 lockers or 20 or 30, whatever a number is, and maybe we just do Wheels for Change for 10 people or whatever the number is. But it's important, as a former CEO, to test things out and actually apply them, get the data and see if it's working, and what can we do to make it better. And most high-performing organizations say, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And I think we can look at, we've got a homeless strategy, and I think that's great stuff, and we credit those who've done that. There's a lot of work to put into that. both in the city and the county and elsewhere, and that's great stuff. A lot of organizations in town are doing that, and that's wonderful. And please continue to do that. What's the next thing that we can do now that we're having a performance review on that? There's some that's working, some's not. To your point, people are still pushing around 1, 2 shopping carts on this. So we think those are 2 big ideas that are actionable, that are relatively low cost. It may in fact be cost savings to it that we can deliver on post October 24th in our community.
What I think is really interesting too is that, you know, by going to London and getting more of a global perspective, you have the ability to kind of see what other cities are doing, what other municipalities are doing, and let's see what's working. Let's find some creative solutions to restoring people's dignity, to, you know, getting them back into the workforce. I do this. I call it the Great Purge, and we get a bin, and we get rid of stuff out of our house. This was the first year that I actually saw people climbing inside of our bin to see what they could get, if they could find something for scrap. We had an old lawnmower. I saw a guy pull the lawnmower out and run down. It was something he could get some cash for, and it broke my heart seeing that that's where it's gotten to, where people are literally crawling into bins to be able to see if they can, rooting through some stuff to see if they can find anything of value. And again, I was just more worried for their safety getting in and out of there, but it really broke my heart to see that that's where people are at. And
to your point, yeah,
there's no dignity.
There's no dignity there, and also it's lost. And for those who followed my work at the chamber, I used to talk about lost economic opportunity, about participation rates in the workforce, and this and that. But that's exactly what this is. When people aren't part of the workforce, you know, their ability to contribute to society generally through taxes and living and buying things is diminished. But when you take that, when you take from homeless to work, it's a double gain, because calls for service go here, and, you know, general revenues go here. You know, mental health services decline, and you know, it's just a win-win for everyone. I think by let's pilot a few things and see if in fact, you know, this can work. It's worked at other places globally. To your point, from Lisbon to Australia and other places, not every community does it the same, and that's okay. You know, obviously San Diego is a warmer climate, and so we get all that. And so, what about some of the other cities? You know, I know Medicine Hat in Alberta.
Right.
You know, for example, like they almost brought down to 0 their homeless, and you know, that's not a, you know, San Diego climate for sure. Medicine Hat, right? So it can be done, and I know locally we've got great leaders, and I know many of them in our community organizations that you know, would love to get a chance to tackle some of this.
Well, it's neat. I mean, I've known you for 20 plus years.
Yeah, we'll stick with 20. We're going to
stick with 20-ish. But I like that you've called this Love Our Hood, because it's consistent with you. It's consistent with the person I've known for all these years. Tell me more about why you've called it Love Our Hood.
When you have Love Your Hood, it's an ownership of your neighborhood. And I think it just brings the whole ownership. You know, people talk about, I live in this neighborhood. You know, I live in you know, South Walkerville. I live in Walkerville. I live in this or that, or Palette Village or whatever, and that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we should be doing that. Yeah. But also, this attaches a little more stakeholder, you know, attachment to it, right? Like this ownership. Yeah, I love my hood, and this is what I'm doing about it, right? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and certainly, you know, we like to think that's, you know, good branding, you know, for this piece of our campaign rollout.
Okay. Yeah, it's certainly consistent with who you are, for sure. That idea of what can I bring back to the community? What can we add to the community?
I just hear you tell that story about, you know, the guy climbing into the. I mean,
I saw at different times.
Oh, different times.
At one point, we had 2 people at the same time, but it was 6 people, and 3 that I recognized from walking around the neighborhood. Like I knew I've seen them before. Yeah, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, even if we could cut that, you know, say we cut that in half. Let's say we got 3 or 4 of those individual storage lockers. Say we got them a temporary job doing whatever that we can come up with. There's no shortage of work to be done.
Yeah.
And you know, and instead of having 6, now you have 3, and then you have 2. Then there's 1.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, just the social economic value to that is, you know, is huge, and I think it's untapped potential. Again, I talk with the chamber about, you know, we have this low participation rate with not enough people participating in the economy. They've given up. They're homeless. You know, whatever circumstances in their life, they had something, a bad break, whatever. It's our responsibility as leadership to make sure that we don't leave people behind, and you know, we need to do our best to see what we can do to that front.
I like the fact that this platform treats homelessness not as a permanent situation, but as a transition. Like, what can we do to get you to the next?
Exactly. It's not a permanent condition. We don't want it to be permanent. I don't think they want it to be permanent. And this is a way to get them back. And success breeds success. And I found that when I was president and CEO of the chamber. Once you get a little bit of success, then more people want to be part of it.
Sure.
And then everybody's calling you. It's great. And yeah, of course. Yeah, it's all great.
Exactly.
It feeds on itself. Nothing breeds success like success.
Yeah.
And that's why getting it to go in the first place is always it's tougher. There's inertia. There's all these problems. But once you get it rolling, I think once you get something rolling, then your program
it's got credibility.
100%. And then people want to join in on it, and then this company wants to make a donation, and people want to wait and see if it's going to work. Is this just another program?
Well, how could a company not want to get involved if we're helping to restore dignity and get people back?
And as the former leader of the Windsor Essex business community, I can tell you right now, they would love to jump in on something of this nature to help the community, because we have a very generous business community across the board, and certainly this is something that I think they would get behind.
Okay, excellent. And all the information, including this document, you can get at votemarchand.com.
That's right. It's all online, and it's a living and breathing document. So if you have ideas, did we miss something? Did we look at this? What about that? Here's another idea. Please, I would encourage anyone, really to submit that.
Okay.
So that we can have a look at it. As I've always said, high-performing organizations are constantly scrubbing themselves and the organization. What is it that we can do better? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How do we do this? And the best way often to do that is have some outside eyes look at it.
Okay.
And we'd encourage the outside eyes to do that.
Is there a way, like, if people want to submit questions, they want to ask you about why you're running, or they want to know a little bit more about the...
Yeah, they can contact us. We're on all the socials, votemarchand.com, and send us some questions. We'll get back to you.
We could use those questions even in Mondays with Matt.
That's right. We can use those questions Mondays with Matt. Absolutely. If we get some questions, we'll be happy to answer them on the next time we sit down.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Every Monday, we're going to have a different video available, and we're going to take some questions. We're going to incorporate those in. We're going to have a different part of your platform that we're going to cover and discuss and flesh it out a little bit more.
Yes. Thank you very much for doing it. It's great to see you.